Incorporated, I am Bisi Adebayo. On today's program, U.S. court discharges NNPC Group of $2.7 billion debt to Esso Oil. And Wall Street big boys lead roles as Saudi Aramco prepares for phase 1 of IPO later this year. And AFDB in handshakes with African Fertilizer and Agribusiness Partnership to implement trade credit guarantees worth $5.4 million to support fertilizer value chains in Nigeria and Tanzania. Well, we'll kick off with the stock markets in Africa, where most of the indices were down at intraday, except here in Nigeria. The all-share index was 0.05% up in intraday on gains recorded by MTN Nigeria and the banking sector. In South Africa, the GSE was down 0.47% at about lunchtime, and that's after news that the dominance of Naspers over the South African stock market is about to be reduced partially. In Egypt, the EGX 30 was also down at intraday. And while the country's finance minister has announced government's plans to issue international bonds of up to $7 billion in the 2019 to 2020 financial year, issuing Sukuk green bonds, yen or yuan bonds could allow Egypt to attract a new type of investor, as the 3-year IMF-backed economic reform program agreed in late 2016 draws to a close. And elsewhere in Kenya, the market ended Friday's session down 0.66%. And in the Middle East, Abu Dhabi's index was down 0.58%, with market heavyweight Emirates Telecommunications Group dropping 1.2%, and First Abu Dhabi Bank, the United Arab Emirates' biggest lender, slipping 0.3%. Dubai's index, however, was up 0.28%, led by gains in financial shares, with Dubai Islamic Bank rising 0.9%. The Qatari index was also up 0.33%, while Saudi Arabia's index was down 0.28%, as the kingdom's largest lender, National Commercial Bank, fell 1.3%, and Al Rajhi Bank shed 0.8%. And in Europe, stocks traded mixed early today as investors monitor ongoing political chaos in the UK and cautious hopes for policy stimulus from the world's major economies after a series of weak data releases. Conrad Busin joins us from the Frankfurt Stock Exchange for more. It's good to see you, Conrad. Trust you're having a great day.
Good afternoon, VC. Thanks for having me back in Nigeria on Channels TV.
We're glad to have you. Now, after a strong first week of the month for the European stock markets, trading this Monday in Europe has been a bit lackluster so far. What's the mood like in Frankfurt, and what events are traders looking forward to this week?
The mood is not too bad, I would say, despite, as you said, the kind of lackluster trading going on here at the Frankfurt Exchange and also on most other Western European bourses. We've been getting a little bit of positive economic data from Germany for a change, export numbers for the month of July, where our export industries managed to increase exports by 0.7% compared to June, while a majority of economists here at the exchange had expected another decline. So that's positive. But apart from this, there is a bit of a wait-and-see mode on the trading floors. As you said, we're looking forward to the next monetary policy meeting by the European Central Bank, where a majority of market participants expect that Mario Draghi and his colleagues will decide on further monetary policy stimulus. But of course, at the moment, there's only the possibility to speculate about this. There's no certainty. Nobody knows what kind of monetary stimulus Mario Draghi will actually have to present and what the effect will be. It's quite possible, that we are going to see a bit of an anti-climax because, of course, this interest rate decision or the monetary policy decision next Thursday has been anticipated on the market for quite a while now. The euro-dollar exchange rate has already fallen quite steeply to around about $1.10. So now wait-and-see mode and speculation about what to expect from Draghi.
And now talking about what to expect, now the Frankfurt Motor Show is the major event of the week in your city and for the whole market. What are the trends this year? And that's in light of the discussion about the future of diesel and the combustion engine in general.
Well, BC, all of the car makers at the motor show here in Frankfurt will present themselves not anymore as simple car makers, but as mobility services providers. And that means that they always also want to make sure that people understand that they're not just making cars. They develop into technology companies, into companies ready for the future, ready to provide the mobility services that people want in all kinds of environments, in all kinds of countries, and in all kinds of cities. One example for this is that electric scooters will be one important focus of this motor show, with, for example, Vodafone, the mobile phone and mobile data operator, equipping an e-scooter with a SIM card. I have no idea what the point is there. As far as I understand it, you will be able to start your e-scooter with your phone, but still it's going to be presented. It's an innovation, and of course it's something welcomed and talked about on the trading floors. Another example for this shift towards, technology is that the guests of honors at this trade fair are coming, many of them are coming from the tech sector, John Kravchik being one of them. He's the CEO of Waymo, which is Google's or Alphabet's unit developing self-driving cars. Also, Virginia Rometty, the CEO of IBM, will be at the fair. So there's going to be a lot of talk between tech firms and car makers. Today, Volkswagen already, one day before the official start of the trade fair, Volkswagen already is staging a major event here in Frankfurt. The company will present itself as New Volkswagen, of course trying to rebrand itself 4 years after the diesel cheating scandal came out.
Quite interesting, Conrad. Now it's more troubles for Facebook, and this time an alliance of states in the U.S. has announced an antitrust investigation into the social media giant. Of course, Russia's state communications watchdog says that Facebook and Google allowed political advertisements on their platforms during Sunday's regional elections despite being asked not to. What's the market reaction to this?
Well, I have to say, Facebook's shares here in Frankfurt trading are on the upside today. And if we look at the recent record high of this share, which was in last July, the shares at the moment are only trading around about 6% lower than that. And of course, this decline since July has to do with the fact that Facebook has to pay a $5 billion fine to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission in the United States. So this has been priced in there. Judging from the stock price upswing today, it's impossible to really say that the market would react negatively to the news from Russia or from the United States, where those probes, these antitrust probes, are underway now. Quite obviously, investors do not believe that those are going to represent major problems for Facebook. The business model remains intact from the point of view from a majority of investors. And if we look at this story from Russia, also it becomes clear that we have to put it into perspective. Russian authorities say that Facebook failed to follow jurisdiction and legislation in Russia that does not allow posting of electoral advertisements around the date of the election. The local election happened over the weekend, and obviously Facebook failed to follow that law. It's a legal infraction. Yes, it's a problem for Facebook that Facebook has to deal with, but it doesn't seem to be a major problem for the company.
All right, Conrad, thank you. Jimmy, we'll be back with you tomorrow.